Have you ever looked around your home and thought, how did it get so full? Not messy exactly, just heavy. Boxes in the closet, drawers filled with things you haven't touched in years, hallways that used to feel spacious now lined with just-in-case items. Let me ask you something. What if the things we hold on to aren't just taking up space, but quietly stealing our peace, our safety, even our freedom? After 60, what you keep around you starts to matter more than ever. A stray footstool can become a trip hazard. A forgotten treadmill in the bedroom might whisper guilt every time you pass it. And sometimes, a box of old birthday cards isn't a comfort. It's a weight you didn't know you were carrying. In this video, I want to gently share with you 7 powerful, and yes, sometimes brutal, decluttering rules that every senior should know. They're not about tossing everything or living like a minimalist monk. They're about honoring your space, your memories, and the life you want to live right now. And I promise, rule number 6 might just be the emotional turning point you didn't know you needed. Let me tell you about someone named Clara Ara. She's 72, widowed, lives in a quiet Ohio suburb in the same house she and her husband built decades ago. Her home was filled with memories, photos, souvenirs, drawers of old receipts and office supplies from her career days. One winter, she tripped over a footstool hidden beneath a folded blanket. Just a bruise, thankfully, but enough to shake her. As she sat on the floor, stunned, she didn't see her home anymore. She saw obstacles. That moment was her turning point. She stood up, slowly, and said out loud, "No more walking through a maze of yesterday just to live today." This video is for anyone who's ever felt the same. If you're ready to clear your space with love, not guilt, and make room for peace, freedom, and joy in your golden years, let's begin. Right now. Rule 1. Say goodbye to just in case. Let me ask you something. How many things in your home are there simply because of these 3 little words, just in case? It sounds harmless, doesn't it? Almost responsible. But over the years, just in case has quietly filled boxes, crammed closets, and turned kitchen shelves into storage units instead of useful spaces. I once visited a dear friend named Helen. She's 74, sharp as a tack, and always the first to offer you pie when you walk through her door. She invited me over one afternoon to help her tidy up the pantry. But what we found wasn't just food. We found 3 unopened slow cookers. One still had the price tag dangling. "Maybe I bought that for Thanksgiving?" She laughed. "Or the church potluck?" Then she paused and said what I've heard so many times. "Well, I kept it just in case." It's not laziness. It's love. It's hope. It's memory. But here's the thing. Just in case often turns into never used. And we don't even notice when it happens. Let me paint a picture. An extra fondue set for the grandkids, just in case. 3 jackets, 2 sizes too small, just in case we lose that weight. Stacks of plastic containers, just in case we host leftovers, though we rarely do now. Each one seems innocent, but together, they take up precious space, not just in your cabinets, but in your peace of mind. Clutter isn't always loud. Sometimes it just lingers, quietly reminding you of something you meant to do, a version of yourself you hoped to be, a plan that never quite happened. And over time, that gentle pressure builds. But here's a truth I want you to really hear today. If you haven't used something in the past year, chances are you won't need it next year either. Seasons have passed. Holidays came and went. Life moved forward. If an item didn't serve a purpose during that time, maybe it's time to let it go. With love. I often tell people to ask themselves 3 questions. Did I even remember I had this? Would I go out and buy it again today? Does this serve who I am now, not who I was 10 years ago? If the answer is no, that's your sign. It's not about waste. It's about clarity. It's about choosing what deserves to stay in your home and your life today. Helen started small. One cabinet. Within a week, she had 3 boxes marked donate. You know what she said? I didn't miss a single thing, but I did feel lighter. So maybe it's time to stop holding on to things for a version of life that no longer fits. Because every item you release makes space for something better, more breathing room, more ease, more peace, and that brings us to the next rule, one that touches the heart in a different way. Because some of the hardest things to let go of aren't kitchen gadgets or old jackets. They're the keepsakes filled with memory and emotion. Let's talk about that next. Rule 2. Preserve memories, not the mess. Some of the hardest things to let go of aren't broken appliances or old coats. They're the things wrapped in memory. A concert ticket from 1974, a faded apron from your mother-in-law, a birthday card from someone you loved and lost. These aren't just objects. They're bookmarks in the story of your life. And that's exactly why they're so hard to part with. Let me tell you about Clara Ara again. One rainy afternoon, she was digging through her closet when she found an old cardboard box. Inside was her late husband's baseball glove. It was stiff with age, but still curved perfectly to the shape of his hand. As she held it, she could almost hear the thud of the ball, his voice calling from across the yard, the sound of laughter echoing through summer air. For a moment, she couldn't move. Her heart swelled, and then sank. The glove hadn't been touched in 15 years. It wasn't on display. It wasn't being used. It was sitting in the dark, quietly waiting. She asked herself, am I honoring his memory or hiding from it? And that's where many of us get stuck. We confuse emotional value with practical value. We think, if I let go of this, I'm letting go of them. But that's not true. Memories don't live in a dusty box. They live in your heart, in your stories, in the way you carry the people you've loved forward. Your home is not a museum. It's a living, breathing space for today. And when too many sentimental things pile up, they can actually crowd out your peace of mind. Clara Ara realized that keeping everything didn't make the memories stronger. It just made her house feel heavier. So she did something brave. She laid the glove on her kitchen table one morning, snapped a photo in the gentle light, and wrote down a single sentence. His hand held mine for 42 years. He taught our boys how to catch. I'll never forget that. Then, she gave the glove to her grandson, who had just joined his school's baseball team. In that moment, she didn't feel loss. She felt relief. She felt joy. Because the memory didn't disappear. It transformed into a living legacy. So if you're holding on to items out of love, but they're gathering dust in a closet, maybe it's time to honor them in a different way. Take photos. Write a note. Create a memory book. Keep one item that means the most, and let the rest go with gratitude. You're not throwing away the past. You're making room for your present. Now that we've talked about emotional clutter, let's turn to something more physical and more dangerous than most people realize. Because sometimes, the clutter we live with doesn't just weigh us down emotionally. It can quietly put our health at risk. And that's exactly what we'll talk about next. Rule 3. Clear your paths. Keep your freedom. When we think about clutter, we often imagine messy closets or crowded countertops. But some of the most dangerous clutter doesn't sit on a shelf. It sits in your path. Quiet, familiar, invisible. Until the day it isn't. Clara Ara learned this the hard way. One winter night, the power had gone out. She was walking from her bedroom to the kitchen, flashlight flickering, when her foot caught the edge of an old footstool she'd placed near the hallway. Years ago. It had always been there. Her just-in-case seat for putting on shoes. She never really noticed it, until the moment she fell. A bruised hip, a fractured wrist, and 6 weeks of painful physical therapy, all from one small object she no longer saw. Here's the truth we don't like to say out loud. As we get older, our homes don't just feel smaller. They can become riskier. Things we once moved around with ease now slow us down. A curled rug corner near the door. A basket of magazines beside the couch. A plant stand near the stairs. They're familiar, maybe even sentimental. But they're also hazards hiding in plain sight. And the irony? These are often the very things we stop seeing. They blend into the background until we stumble. Or worse. But it doesn't have to be that way. A simple walkthrough of your home can reveal more than you think. Take a fresh look at the hallway you walk every morning. The path from your bedroom to the front door. Your emergency route, your everyday routine. Ask yourself, is it wide? Is it clear? Can I move freely, safely, without stepping over, around, or through? After her fall, Clara Ara's daughter insisted they do a full safety sweep. At first, Clara Ara resisted. She felt like her home was being rearranged without her say. But as they walked room by room, something changed. She saw what she hadn't in years: a teetering umbrella stand, a trunk by the stairs, shoes scattered near the entryway. These weren't cozy touches anymore. They were silent risks. Together, they moved furniture just a few inches, rolled up loose rugs, added a few nightlights, and when it was done, you know what Clara Ara said? For the first time in years, I feel like I can walk through my home without holding my breath. Because safety isn't about giving up independence. It's how you protect it. Every object you remove from your walking path is one more step toward freedom, not limitation. So take a look around today, not tomorrow. Start with the spaces you use most. Clear a path for yourself, for your safety, for your peace of mind. And speaking of peace, let's talk about something a little deeper. Because while physical clutter can trip us, emotional clutter can keep us stuck in who we used to be. And letting go of that might be the most freeing step of all. Let's explore that next. Rule 4. Let go of who you used to be. Sometimes the hardest clutter to face isn't in our garage or kitchen. It's the quiet weight of who we used to be, hiding in a drawer, a box, or a dusty corner of the closet. And we hold on to it, not because we need it, but because it reminds us of a version of ourselves we're afraid to let go. Clara Ara had a small office in the back of her house. She hadn't worked in over a decade, but the space still looked like it did on her last day. Folders neatly stacked, pens in their holder, boxes of paper clips, and a red stapler she loved from her days as a secretary. She didn't use the room anymore. She didn't even sit in that chair. But she never touched anything inside. One afternoon, she stood in the doorway and finally asked herself the question she had been avoiding. Am I still that person? The truth hit her gently. No. That chapter was over. Beautiful, meaningful, proud, but finished. What remained now was a room holding on to her past more tightly than she was. We all do this in different ways. A treadmill we planned to use when we got fit again. A sewing kit we thought we'd master one day. Unopened kitchen gadgets from when we believed we'd cook like a chef. Books from a season when we imagined we'd have more time. But life shifted. We grew. Priorities changed. And that's okay. The problem is, when we keep these items, we keep alive a version of ourselves that no longer fits. We turn our homes into museums of missed intentions and unfinished plans. But your home isn't meant to be a shrine to the past. It's meant to serve the life you're living now. So ask yourself gently, Does this belong to the life I live today? If it doesn't, that's not failure. That's growth. Letting go isn't rejecting who you were. It's respecting who you've become. And when Clara Ara finally packed up those office supplies, she didn't feel sadness. She felt space. She felt ready. Because when you make room for who you are now, you open the door to what's next. New interests, new joys, new freedom. And speaking of freedom, sometimes the biggest thing that holds us back from starting is that it all just feels too big, too overwhelming. But what if the secret isn't in doing everything? It's in doing one small thing, one day at a time. Let me show you how next. Rule 5. Start small. Start now. When you look around and see clutter in every corner, it's easy to feel frozen. You think to yourself, where do I even begin? And before you know it, another day passes, then another, and nothing changes. That's exactly how Clara Ara felt. She'd walk into her living room and see overflowing shelves, drawers packed tight, piles of magazines and keepsakes, and then she'd sigh, turn around, and walk away. It all just felt like too much. One day, during a visit, her daughter gently said, "Mom, just start with one drawer. Give it 15 minutes." Clara Ara laughed at first. What difference could 15 minutes make? But later that evening, she opened the kitchen junk drawer, the one with expired coupons, pens that didn't work, batteries of unknown age, and she set a timer. No pressure, just 15 minutes. And something shifted. That one small win gave her momentum. The next day, she tackled a shelf in the hallway. The day after, a corner of her bedroom closet. No dramatic overhauls, just steady, simple progress. By the end of the week, she had cleared more space than she had in years, and not once did she feel overwhelmed. Because here's the truth, you don't need to clean your whole house in one weekend. You just need to do something today, something small. Progress doesn't come from big bursts of effort. It comes from consistency and from kindness to yourself. So choose one tiny space, a drawer, a windowsill, a single basket, and set a timer. When it rings, stop. Celebrate it. Because that's not just tidying. That's reclaiming control, one moment at a time. And now that you've seen how little steps can lead to big change, let's talk about another kind of burden that sneaks into our homes. Not from what we buy, but from what we're holding for others. Especially when the others are the people we love most. Let's take a look at that. Next, Rule 6. Release the guilt of other people's stuff. If you've ever opened a closet and found boxes labeled with your children's names, yearbooks, trophies, old clothes, stuffed animals, you're not alone. Many of us hold on to these things not because we use them, but because we feel we should. We tell ourselves, they might want it one day. And year after year, the boxes stay put, gathering dust and quietly taking up not just space, but emotional weight. That's exactly what Clara Ara was doing. Her attic was filled with her children's old belongings. At first, she kept them out of love, then out of habit, eventually out of guilt. She worried that if she let those things go, she might seem careless or unloving. What if her son wanted that teddy bear? What if her daughter asked for her cheerleading uniform someday? But the truth? They had never asked. They had grown up, built their own lives, and moved forward. It was Clara Ara who was still holding on. Then, one afternoon, her daughter said something that changed everything. "Mom, if I wanted it, I would have picked it up by now. You don't have to keep my memories for me." It was a simple truth, but it gave Clara Ara permission to finally let go, not of her love, not of the memories, but of the responsibility she'd been carrying all those years. Because here's the thing, your home is not a storage unit for the next generation. It's your sanctuary, and the things inside it should serve you. If your children or grandchildren haven't asked for their things in years, it's okay to ask them once. Give them a deadline. And if they don't respond, let it go with love. Clara Ara did exactly that. She made a few phone calls, set a weekend deadline, and anything left unclaimed, she donated. And to her surprise, none of her children asked for much. They didn't see her as heartless. They saw her as free. Because releasing guilt isn't about letting go of others. It's about reclaiming yourself, your space, your peace. You've held on long enough, maybe for them, maybe for a version of the past. But now it's time to hold space for your own life. And speaking of guilt, there's one more kind that sneaks in quietly, and it's often the hardest to name. It's the guilt we feel toward ourselves, toward the unused things that whisper, "You should have." Let's talk about that next. Rule 7. Guilt has no place in your home. There's a quiet kind of clutter that doesn't sit in boxes or closets. It hides in plain sight. And every time you walk past it, you feel it. That treadmill in the corner, bought with the best of intentions. The sewing kit your friend gave you, still unopened. The art supplies you promised yourself you'd use once you had more time. These aren't just things. They're reminders of promises we didn't keep, of goals we didn't reach. And slowly, they turn into something heavier than dust: guilt. Clara Ara had an expensive treadmill in her bedroom for over 5 years. It was sleek, top of the line, and completely untouched. She'd walk past it every morning and feel that little tug in her chest. I should be using it. I wasted money. Maybe next week. But deep down, she knew. Her knees weren't what they used to be. Her lifestyle had changed. The treadmill had become a piece of furniture and a source of shame. But here's what she finally realized. Guilt has no place in a home that's meant to feel safe. Your space should comfort you, not criticize you. That treadmill didn't make her healthier. It made her feel like a failure. And that's not the purpose of anything you choose to keep around you. So she let it go. And with it, she let go of the story that she should have been someone different. She traded guilt for peace. The sewing kit went next. She had held on to it for years out of obligation, because it was a thoughtful gift. But a gift that makes you feel bad isn't really a gift. It's a burden in disguise. Maybe you have something like that too. An old blender from a diet that didn't stick. Books on a shelf you never started. A piano you haven't touched since the kids left home. Let me tell you this with love. It's okay. You are not the things you didn't finish. You are not the hobbies you didn't love. You're not your past intentions. You're here. You are evolving. And your home should reflect the person you are now, not guilt over who you thought you'd be. And now that we've come to the final rule, I want to bring everything together. Because what Clara Ara discovered after all these lessons wasn't just about decluttering. It was about transformation. Her home wasn't just cleaner. It was lighter, more joyful, more her. So let's take one last moment to reflect and close this journey with something simple and powerful. Let's wrap it all up. Next, letting go is loving yourself. Clara Ara didn't let go of 30 bags of clutter in one day. It happened slowly, one drawer, one box, one memory at a time. But each item she released was a quiet act of self-respect, of finally saying, I choose peace over pressure. I choose space over guilt. I choose me. Because that's what letting go really is. It's not about throwing things away. It's about honoring your life as it is now. It's about creating a home that doesn't just look tidy, but feels free, safe, and soft around the edges. A place where you can breathe, sit with a cup of tea, hear the birds in the morning, and move through your day without stepping over yesterday. Maybe for you, it starts with one just-in-case drawer. Maybe it's a shelf of old gifts you've outgrown, or a hallway that just needs to be cleared. Whatever it is, start there, gently, with love, with no rush, no guilt, just the intention to make your space match your spirit, because you've spent your life caring for others. Now it's time to care for your own peace. Letting go isn't giving up. It's making room for joy, for lightness, for the life you're still beautifully living. So tell me, what's one small thing you're ready to release today? Share it in the comments. You never know who you might inspire. And if this video spoke to your heart, give it a like, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe so we can keep walking this gentle, joyful path together. You deserve a home that hugs you back, not one that holds you back. And I'm so proud of you for taking the first step.